this meeting to order, the Floresville City Council special meeting on February the 6th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Please rise for our invocation. Please welcome Pastor John Conrad.
Let us pray. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, we call upon you to be at the center of deliberations this evening. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are your ways higher than our ways, and your thoughts than our thoughts. Grant us the wisdom and courage to live our lives according to your word, and as imperfect human beings, our intentions are not always pure. Transform our hearts when they are tainted by resentment or hatred. Remind us that through you all things are possible, including healing and reconciliation. We lift up this community that is affected by the actions of our community leaders. We pray for the well-being of every citizen of Floresville, not just those who share our views. And in the words attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is error, truth. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may seek to console as well as to be consoled, to understand as well as to be understood, to love as well as to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in forgetting that we find ourselves, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Pastor Conrad, can you ask for a special prayer for the councilmen that have gone and are now with Jesus Christ, for the families of Councilman Sanchez, the families of Councilman Jimenez, and the families of Councilman Flores?
Lord God, we just come before you and lift up before you the members of our community that are no longer within our midst. We pray for the families. We pray for a strong measure of confidence and peace in you in all things. Lord, we give you thanks for the promises that we can find through Jesus Christ, and we give you thanks for the hope that it can be found in him. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and the next.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. All councilmen are in attendance. Thank you, councilmen, for being here. At this time, I will open the floor to citizens' comments. It is a procedure that we have open to citizens. We offer you 5 minutes to discuss your issues. You can address the council. If you would, once you come up to the podium, review it, please state your name, and you will go from there. Thank you.
You need to read the silence your phone, if you wouldn't mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll bear with me real quick, it's not crayon. Please silence your mobile device and refrain from using them during the meeting. Audience participation is limited to the role of observers, except during designated comment periods, or if requested or invited to address the City Council. Members of the public speaking during comment periods are invited to speak, shall remain behind the podium while speaking, and shall conduct themselves with proper respect and decorum. Any outbursts directed at the council, there's going to be zero tolerance, folks. You will be removed from the chambers. Each member of the public shall be limited to 5 minutes to make remarks during the general comments period, and 1 minute following each consideration and action item. Members of the public must be respectful of the individuals making citizen comments before, during, and after such comments are made. Profane, insulting, or threatening language, including racial, ethnic, gender slurs, will not be tolerated. Any refusal to abide by these rules or disruption of the meeting may result in cancellation of the speaker's remaining time, removal from the meeting room, or charge for disruption of a public meeting. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we open the floor for citizens' comments. Can y'all hear okay? Is the sound system working all right?
Sounds great.
Yeah, citizens' comments.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council and staff, and those here present. My name is Roy S. Hydrek. I live at 427 4th Street in Floresville, Texas. And I'm here to ask a few questions in the agenda to item I, J, and K. That is going to come to you with Richard for presentation. Back in 2018, we reviewed all his requirements and we approved. I have the documentation with me, so he also will make the presentation. And this is a project that includes about $37 million in construction and about $1.5 million in tax revenue for the city. So I'm requesting that you please go ahead and approve this project for him. I also got item and I get married with a resolution for the $255,000 to be transferred from Economic Development Corporation of Floresville, which I is a member and the treasurer. And this be to make improvement over into the event center and the parks. And recreations are requested for you to approve this transfer. On item O, this is a budget amendment for $60,000. I would like to request and find out, back in 2019, there was a grant to purchase one car from the city, and the grant will cover 2 more cars. So the police department should be getting 3 cars. This is the item here today?
No, sir, that is
No?
not the, that
Okay.
is a different.
This is not the item. Good. Alrighty. Then I got item R, resolution to authorize the city to apply for a grant from the Rural Development Corporation, Rural Development, grant for $500,000. And I think this one has a deadline. So I will request to please approve this one, and it's a grant money. What is the money going to be used for?
A sewer line.
Sewer line. So this is for sewer line for the new addition?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So hopefully, I pray that you all agree with those items. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other citizens' comments this evening? If not, moving on to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Mayor and council members, my name is George Gonzalez, and I've been dealing with a code compliance officer since December the 4th, 2019, and he has done nothing. I'm going to explain what I have. I went to City Hall and spoke to Lyle about loose chickens at 1413 Trail Street. He told me code compliance officer Ralph Suniga would call me. Officer Suniga called me and again discussed loose chickens. Spoke to Officer Suniga again, and he stated that he went to address at 1413 Trail Street, and person looked through the blind but would not answer the door. Suniga said he would send him a letter regarding loose chickens. Apparently the letter never got sent. I came back to City Hall December the 5th. Again went to City Hall to speak to Ralph Suniga. Ralph Suniga was not there. Spoke to Jesse Gutierrez, and again he said he and Ralph were going to send a letter to the person at 1413 Trail Street about the chickens. Went back December the 10th. Spoke to Ralph Suniga again at 9 a.m. He said he did not send letter. He said he had carried letter to person at 1413 Trail Street. The lady there told him that the chickens belonged to the neighbor. My answer to Mr. Suniga was deal with both. If letter was given to person, she will say, I never got the letter. Letter by Mr. Zuniga should have been sent certified with a return receipt and one regular mail. That way they can't say they didn't get it. Mr. Zuniga is giving me the runaround. Nothing, he doesn't do anything, and all he has is excuses. Mr. Zuniga said for me to come back on December the 18th. Then he will find them. January the 8th, Mr. Zuniga told me that the city has no control over chickens because the city has nowhere to house them. I told Mr. Zuniga, that's not my problem, that's your problem. I told Ralph Zuniga again, you need to do your job and read the city ordinance. January the 16th, went to City Hall at 8:05 and spoke to Angel. I asked her to tell Ralph Zuniga to call me. She wrote a work order. Mr. Zuniga did not call me. I went back to the city at 9:30 a.m. and asked to speak to Monica Valise. I asked Monica, I need an ordinance on the chickens. Monica came to the lobby along with Code Compliance Zuniga. I again explained chickens still running loose and nothing has been done. Monica took over the conversation. She is not the Code Compliance Officer. She shouldn't have done that. Mr. Zuniga again said the city does not have anything on livestock. The chickens are not livestock. He needs to read the ordinance. Again, I told Mr. Zuniga, read the city ordinance. These are chickens. Mr. Zuniga again said the same answer as before. That person at 1413 Trail Street does not claim the chickens. Why is it that they claim the roosters? They've got about 30 roosters, and they don't have enough square footage. They can't keep them, but yet he won't do anything. So, Monica Ali said I would have to talk to the city manager, Mrs. Turner, go to higher up, and they both walked away. Monica said Mrs. Turner would call me, and I never received a call. No, there were never any chickens in the neighborhood until these renters moved in. They have multiplied. I went to the neighbor to visit. There was nothing but droppings on the porch. I mean, this is not right. If Mr. Zuniga cannot do his job, you people as mayor and city council, you all need to deal with him. Next time I come over here, I'm going to show you all some pictures. Mr. Zuniga elects to make his own rules. He needs to follow the Floresville Code of Ordinance, not his own rules. And I will prove that to you all at next meeting. So I would appreciate it if someone talks to Mr. Zuniga and tells him to get the job done. I shouldn't have to come over here and speak to you all. It's something very simple.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, Fred Gonzalez, Floresville. I'm not well versed enough to comment on the specific incident from Mr. Gonzalez. However, as a citizen, I join him in a general way. As hard as it may seem, and it is hard, we need to look at this situation, code compliance. We need to come up with some kind of effective plan. If we care about the city, we need to start somewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any other citizens' comments? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 1A, consideration action to approve the meeting minutes for the regular council meeting on January 23rd, 2020.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a correction on old business on A. It's, the meeting was approved by Ms. Martinez and seconded by Ms. Jimenez with an X.
Any other corrections with council sees? Excuse me. If not, do I have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Martinez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Moving on to new business. Consideration and action to approve ordinance 2020-001, an ordinance ordering the municipal election of the city of Floresville on May 2nd, 2020. Councilwoman Human?
Yes, we have an updated agenda item 2A to include Proposition A, sales tax on the street maintenance, to be included with our ordinance number 2020-001. Ms. Rodriguez, do we need to read the ordinance?
Yes, if you will. I know it's rather long, but
No, that's fine.
yes, it's necessary so that the public can be given notice of it.
Sure.
And yes, Proposition A, council has to be included. It's good for 4 years and it will lapse this December. So it needed to be included. Okay, please.
An ordinance ordering the 2020 regular election, municipal election of the city of Floresville, indicating those officers to be elected, to include proposition of the reauthorization of the local sales and use tax in the city of Floresville at the rate of 0.25%, to continue providing revenue from the maintenance and repair of municipal streets. Further providing for an accessible electronic voting system to be used, establishing polling places, providing for early voting location, establishing hours for voting, adopting the sealed ballot box procedure, directing the city secretary to give notice of the regular municipal election of the city of Floresville, directing the city secretary to post notice of drawing order of names on the ballot, designating a last day to file for a place on the ballot, and providing an effective date. Whereas the City Council of the City of Floresville deems it to be in the best interest of the citizens of the City of Floresville to not enter into an agreement with Wilson County Election Administrator to conduct its election, but has elected to order its regular general city election for the election of municipal officers to be held May 2nd, 2020, pursuant to the Texas Election Code, the City of Floresville Charter, and its city ordinances. Now therefore be it ordained and ordered by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Floresville, Section 1, that regular city general municipal election for the election of municipal officers of the City of Floresville is hereby ordered to be conducted on May 2nd, 2020, under the applicable provisions of the Texas Election Code, the City of Floresville Charter, and city ordinances. Section 2. That said election shall be for the purpose of electing the following officers of the City of Floresville: Councilmember Place 3, 2-year term. Councilmember Place 4, 2-year term. Councilmember Place 5, 2-year term. Section 3. That said election shall further be for the purpose of submitting Proposition A as follows to the voters of the City of Floresville for consideration and approval. The reauthorization of the local sales and use tax in the City of Floresville at the rate of 0.25% to continue providing revenue for maintenance and repair of municipal streets. The tax expires on the 4th anniversary of the date of this election unless the imposition of the law is reauthorized. Section 4, that said City Council for the City of Floresville herein directs its City Secretary to post 72 hours notice for the order of names on the ballot to commence on February 20th through February 24th, 2020. Section 5, that the City Council for the City of Floresville herein directs its City Secretary to give notice that the last day for filing application for a place on the ballot in the general election shall be February 14th, 2020. Section 6, that the City Council for the City of Floresville herein directs its City Secretary to conduct drawing for order of the names on the ballot on Thursday, February 2020. Section 7, that an accessible electronic voting system shall be used for this election, including early voting. At least one accessible voting device approved and certified by the Texas Secretary of State shall be provided in each polling place and in every polling location used to conduct the city general election. Said approved and certified accessible electronic voting system shall be supplied for said city general election by the City of Floresville, acting by its City Secretary. The sealed ballot box procedure established by the Texas Election Code shall be used for this election. Section 8, that early voting by personal appearance shall commence on Monday, April 20th, 2020, and end Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. Said early voting shall be conducted at the location, days, and hours indicated as follows, and the early voting clerk shall be early voting clerk Monica Lee, Secretary for the City of Floresville. Early voting location, City of Floresville City Hall, located at 1120 D Street, Floresville, Texas 78114. Section 9, that on May 2nd, 2020, the date of the uniform election, the City Council election shall be held at the City of Floresville City Hall, located at 1120 D Street, Floresville, Texas 78114. Section 10, that the mayor, assisted by the city secretary, is hereby authorized and directed to give notice of the general city election of municipal officers under Proposition A as required by law. Section 11, that the city secretary of the city of Floresville is hereby ordered to cause publication of this ordinance ordering the general city election of the council members, Proposition A, is herein presented in the newspaper of general circulation at least once no earlier than the 30th day, no later than the 10th day before election day. In addition, a copy of this ordinance shall be posted not later than the 21st day before election day on the bulletin board used for posting notices of meetings of the governing body, which notice shall be indicate the place of the early voting location of the polling place on the day of election, May 2nd, 2020. Section 12, that the city secretary shall serve a duly certified copy of this ordinance and the election notice upon each of the presiding judges not later than the 7th day after the signing of this ordinance or the 15th day before election day, whichever is later. In addition, the city secretary shall deliver a certified copy of this ordinance and the election notice on the county clerk not later than the 60th day before the election day. Section 13, that this ordinance shall become effective immediately from and after its passage and publication as may be required by governing law. Passed and approved on the 6th day of February 2020.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve.
I have a motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Councilwoman Cantu, seconded by Councilwoman Martinez. I will open the floor for any citizens' comments.
I have a comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to tell the voters that we will not go into agreement with the county. It's going to be just a regular general election. It's going to be it's not going to be a special election. A lot of people do not know what happened or what has been going on, but we're back on the saddle again. So take that into consideration. And I have said, let's put everything back the way it was, and let's move on and do it for the rest of the city. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. 5-0. Moving on to item 2B, consideration action to approve the early voting locations for the municipal election of the city of Floresville on May 2nd, 2020.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, basically this is to give notice to the citizens of Floresville as to the early voting location. I would like Your Honor, or basically you, Mayor, and Council to be aware that we did use the template that is put in place by the Secretary of State. And basically it does indicate that early voting location will be at the City of Floresville City Hall Council Chambers at 1120 D Street, Floresville, Texas 78114. And it also designates early voting dates to be April the 20th through April the 28th, 2020, Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock a.m. to 5 p.m. Extended hours will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April the 21st, 2020, and Tuesday, April the 28th, 2020.
Any questions by the council?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the early voting locations.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Jimenez. Any citizens' comments?
I have a comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I have said years ago and months ago that this is our house. We have no business over there at the county. I mean, the voters, the taxpayers deserve this place. This is a unique place, a safe place, a trip hazard, none. This is ADA, this is our home. We ain't got no business over there at the county. Let it be known that we will not cooperate with the county. This is our house. This is your home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Moving on to item C, consideration action to approve the election day vote location for the municipal election of the city of Floresville on May 20th, 2020. pursuant to the Texas Election Code and Secretary of State requirements.
And Mayor, if I may, in council, basically, it indicates the same thing, other than it indicates that this is for the city of Floresville municipal election that's scheduled for May 2nd, the year 2020, election day, voting location, once again, to be the city of Floresville, City Hall, council chambers, located at 1120 D Street, Floresville, Texas, 78114. It will occur on a Saturday, May the 2nd, 2020, and voting times will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
I move to approve the election voting location for the municipal election of the city of Floresville.
I have a
On
motion,
May the 2nd, 2020.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Martinez. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Moving on to item D, consideration and action to appoint an election judge for the municipal election of the city of Floresville on May 2nd, 2020.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, once again, this is pursuant to the election code, in particular, Chapter 32. My understanding is that the name of this individual, the name that has been provided to you, Mayor, and along to City Councils, has been utilized in the past. My understanding is that this individual has likewise agreed to be named and undertake the duties of being an election judge.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve an election judge for the municipal election of the city of Floresville on May the 2nd, 2020.
Would you please announce the name of the election judge?
Sylvia Trevino.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Martinez. Any citizens' comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. All right, moving on to item E. Consideration and action to approve the Floresville Little League agreement for the year 2020.
Mayor and City Council, you have I think this is the second or third draft in your package, but I'm quite sure that we have representative here from the league that can speak. Staff has met, and I'll have a representative speak as to the nuances to the contract.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm sorry, Joe Heath, Floresville. We have worked on this agreement with your EDC, and this agreement was very agreeable to both parties for your consideration.
And if I may, Mr. Heath, can I just go ahead and announce to, I'm sure the council's already aware of the changes, but if it's okay with you?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So that I can go ahead and read them out and just summarize them, Mayor and council
And
members.
it was easy and affordable with Chet Perez.
Okay, so it's actually a group of people that have agreed to the following. So, Honorable Mayor and Council, the following changes that are outlined in the agreement are as follows. There's only 5 changes. Just want to bring them to your attention. My understanding is the first one is that the Floresville Little League, also known as or referred to in the contract or agreement as FLL, agrees to pay $20 per registrant with no maximum cap. You will find that under section 6.8. Number 2, the FLL agrees to pay a flat fee of $1,000 for the fall season, which is optional. The city agrees to manage the concession stand during the fall season, with all expenses and proceeds belonging to the city. That you will find under section 6.8 and 9.1.6. The third change is that the Floresville Little League and the city will share sponsorships. For example, any sponsorship that FLL obtains will go directly to FLL. Any sponsorship that the city obtains will go directly to the city. That you will find under section 15.4. Fourth change is that FLL will provide a digital calendar to Chas Pettis and Ben Reed detailing all FLL events, including practices, games, pictures, etc. Fifth and final change is that FLL will install a combination lock on the food supply closet door and give the combination in a sealed envelope to Chas Pettis. My understanding is that those are the agreements that all the parties have discussed and have agreed to. Is that correct, Mr. Eady?
The item about the concessions for the fall season, that was to open a conversation if we didn't have enough volunteers to run it, that the city would have an option, but not to put the burden on the city.
Okay, great.
So is the city gonna take take over the concession stand on the
That was
fall?
my
It would
understanding.
just be for the fall
To
ball.
actually run it?
Yes, actually,
Yes.
that was the.
Yeah, we just, last year, y'all didn't.
Right, we
y'all
don't
didn't
have enough volunteers
So
to
we
fall.
agreed that we just take it over, leave a flat rate at 1,000 instead of doing.
That was the exchange. Y'all have a flat rate and then we would do concessions.
That sounds good.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, did you get that?
Yes, ma'am, I'm writing it down that the city is going to run the fall concession stand. And I do believe, I thought that it wasn't, Mr. Heath, I thought it was in the agreement.
It wasn't in
Let me look at it again to make sure.
It very well
Yes.
may be, I might miss that
Yes.
detail.
That's
It
okay.
is. With that, I move
Great.
to approve the Floresville Little League agreement.
Any comments by the city, by the council?
Second, you need a second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu, a second by Councilwoman Jimenez. Any citizens' comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you very much.
Your council, thank you for the support.
And Honorable Mayor and Council, it is already included in the agreement,
Thank you.
under 9.1.6.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, moving on to item F, consideration and action to accept the resignation of Sherry Castillo from the Phelps Board. City Manager.
So in your package, you have the resignation email.
I move to accept the resignation of Sherry Castillo.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. G, consideration and action to appoint a board member to the Phelps Board.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Donna Reed to the board member of Phelps.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu to appoint Vonna Reed to the Phelps Board. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Martinez. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Item H, consideration and action to approve proclamation 2020-003, Jesse Christopher Chris Flores.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve 2020-003 Jesse Christopher Chris Flores
I have a motion-
proclamation.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Ms. Jimenez. Any citizens' comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And I would like to read it to you. Proclamation, City of Floresville, Office of Mayor and City Council. Whereas on behalf of the City of Floresville, the City Council wishes to record our deepest sorrow over the passing of former Councilman Jesse Christopher Chris Flores on January 21st, 2020. And whereas former Councilman Jesse Christopher Chris Flores served the community of Floresville as an alderman from 2008 through 2012, and served as mayor pro tem from 2010 through 2012. As a community leader, he was a major part of the progressive movement of the city of Floresville. He strived to improve the quality of life for the residents of Floresville. He valued business, family, and was instrumental in the construction of the Lauro G. Deluan Event Center. He was a staunch advocate of new technology and water improvements for the city of Floresville. Whereas former Councilman Jesse Christopher Chris Flores was a beloved and loving husband to Joyce Flores, father, friend, and community leader, and whereas his life was dedicated to the best interests of the community of Floresville and his family. Whereas the city of Floresville was honored to have worked with him during his service to the community of Floresville. And now therefore, I, Mayor Cecilia Gonzalez-Dibble, Mayor of the city of Floresville, on behalf of the entire city council, place 1, Marissa Jimenez, place 2, Gloria E. Martinez, place 3, Juan Ortiz, place 4, Jade Jimenez, place 5, Mayor Pro Tem Gloria Morales Cantu, city employees and all citizens of Floresville, in recognition of former councilman Jesse Christopher Chris Flores for the many contributions to the city of Floresville. Do hereby express our deepest appreciation for his dedication to the progress of the city of Floresville and extending his family our sincerest sympathy upon his passing. Thank you so much. Moving on to item I,
Madam
consideration.
Mayor, I have a point of order. I'd like to move item 2P forward due to time constraints.
Did we finish with the proclamation?
Yes.
Can we, did you need to present that to the family, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, can we do that and do that so we can get that?
Well, no, we have to sign them and
Okay,
get them ready.
and then we'll have it ready for, okay, Mayor. Yes, okay.
So,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Moving on to item P,
Yes, 2P.
2P, consideration action to approve an agreement between the city of Floresville, a Texas home rule municipality, and Eugene Rodriguez DBA E-Rods K-9 Services, organized and doing business under the laws of Texas, under the laws of the state of Texas, referred to collectively as parties. Lieutenant Evans, let's do.
Oh, there it is, I'm sorry. I'm back.
You're on.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I was talking to a constituent. What agenda item are we on?
2P.
It's the agreement for canine services.
P. Excellent. Okay, basically this is an agreement. So we had a donation to purchase canine. We have a fully trained canine and canine officer, which was graciously donated. And they're in the, you can see they're in chambers today. Officer Rodriguez is our canine officer. He's got his dog. Dog's a young dog, very healthy dog, and a newly trained dog, just like a newly trained officer. Got a lot of work ahead of us, but we're all excited about it. The agreement, basically, the officer owns the dog, and what this agreement will do will, it's kind of like a rental from the city and the PD for $1 a year. We'll be responsible for insurance, maintenance, caretaking like we were before, but we have the use of a canine. It costs us nothing, and we're grateful for that.
Do we still have Devin Keene and his dog?
Sergeant King's dog passed away, and he's not, we don't know if he's interested in maintaining a dog. We know that he'll be involved with this officer and this officer's dog, of course, because of his expertise, which is invaluable.
And I think, if I may, just real quick.
Please.
Lieutenant Evans, I think that Sergeant Keene has taken the loss of his partner extremely. It's been a very, very difficult time for him.
Absolutely. This is his third, this was Sergeant King's third canine, third canine to pass, like I believe the other two. It was unexpected, and he's taking it hard, as he should. They were members of the family, as this dog will be for Officer Rodriguez. So.
And if I may, just real briefly,
Please.
I can go over the agreement. Basically, my understanding is that Officer Rodriguez has agreed to lease his animal for a period of 1 year. However, it also allows each party to maintain the right to terminate, Mayor. It indicates that if they're given, if the city decides they want to terminate services, they can give him a notice of termination within 30 days, and it is terminated. It is for a year lease. He will be responsible for the food and stuff from the animal. The city in return will be responsible for obtaining coverage, some sort of liability coverage just in case, because it is not only a narcotics animal, but it's also a patrol animal, which will be utilized by the police department, basically to also apprehend subjects if need be and stuff of that nature, in order to avoid the loss of officers. That is the plan, or I'm hoping it.
Absolutely.
That is the plan.
What I can tell you is the agreement's extremely equitable. It's much more fair to the city than it is to the officer, and the donations that we received. It would have been extremely difficult for us to do this on our own as a city. We'd have to purchase a new dog, send an officer to new training, and pay for everything. We're not having to do that. What the agreement does as well is, you know, he's a young officer. He may decide to move upward and onward at some point. The agreement allows us to say, okay, it's your dog. You know, we can terminate the agreement. That's fair. You take your dog with you, and if that ever were to happen, but we hope it doesn't, we hope he stays here for a long, long time. So I think it's a good agreement.
Any other questions? Would you like to introduce
EJ, you can come up here if you.
Introduce the officer and the canine, and what is the dog's name?
Officer Rico.
Rico?
Yes.
Officer Rico. And can you tell us, if you can, Officer Rodriguez, tell us what he is trained to do? And
He's
what
trained
you
to
see him
detect
do?
narcotics. So he's trained on marijuana, heroin, cocaine, and meth. So he can detect all odors. Doesn't matter where they're at, you'll find them. He's very good. He's actually one of the top dogs in the class. He's also trained on control, which basically allows us to, it's more of a deterrent, but if necessary, you can send a dog to retrieve the person. But it's more of a deterrent. So if you hear him bark, it's pretty scary.
Quick question. Will this canine be utilized only inside the city limits, or is it going to be used?
It's up to the...
The answer ultimately is no. If we get a request for an emergency, we're going to help whoever needs help. Generally speaking, we'll keep them within the city, but there are always extenuating circumstances. So that'll be the chief's determination or his designee.
Well, I hope all the citizens don't get to see him. But Rico is absolutely gorgeous. Thank you. Any other questions by the council?
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Jay Jimenez. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Welcome to the department. Bye, Rico. Okay, moving on to item 2I, consideration and action to approve the final plat and dedication deeds of ADEX Homes, Lake Subdivision, Engineering, and Legal Fund Reviews.
Yes, Mayor, just give me 1 second. As you can see from the information I provided to you, actually these items, there are several items that go together, Mayor and City Council. I, J, and K, it's all on the Village of Riverbend Buildings. We do have the developer, Mr. Kuntz, who's here to present to you. He has a small presentation, and as I said in my memo, that hopefully that once you approve it, before you leave, we do need you to sign the plat of subdivision. Richard?
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, council members. I'd like to show you, if you allow, a little presentation. Can you dim the lights a little bit? So just to refresh your memory, because some of you weren't here when we approved the first phase, just to go through it, Riverbend is the golf course on the west side, northwest side of Floresville. I'm here on behalf of AVEX Homes and Avalon Park Group, who are wholly or a real estate developer at the same time. The city and Avalon Park signed a developer agreement in 2014. The project has an 18-hole public golf course, a pro shop, a restaurant, loose patio and grill, a banquet room, tennis courts. The entitlement, which is part of the developer agreement, is 904 residential units, and it can also be added some commercial. There are two existing villages, we call them villages, that's why the subdivision is called Riverbend Villages. Traditions Village is the one when you drive into the subdivision on the right side, and then Legends Village, that's the one when you continue past the roundabout and turn left above Luz. So those are a total of 156 residential lots. Almost all are, have houses on them and are sold. This is the existing Riverbend villages. So here's a master plan, a little bit elongated on the picture. This is Traditions Village. Basically all the homes that you see on this home sites that you see are built. This is Legends Village. On the right side you see the pond, which is the retention, basically the driving range, and at the same time a retention pond. And Legends Village is in the middle. Now the links, the subdivision that is under construction, is about to be finished, is the one kind of tank spot on the left side and the west side of the golf course community. The data to this project are, it's 107 finished lots in one phase, phase 1. The whole links phase is 2 phases. It's a total of roughly 180 lots. The second phase will be built at a later stage when the homes in the first phase have been substantially built. This first phase will be completed in February 2020, this month. The lot sizes are 40 wide by 120 deep, minimum deep. Some of the lots have views, and the house prices will start in the 150s. It's a little bit small to read, but this is the plat. The plat is basically the document that turns a undeveloped part of land into legal lots. So once this plat is approved, signed and recorded, it becomes a legal document that basically allows to sell the individual lots. This is the lower part, this is the upper part, lower part. So today I took some pictures because we are asphalting the roads tomorrow. So this is at the very end, at the south end of Riverbend Links. This is looking south from above. This, the houses in the back are the Legends Village. So the green that you see in between the Legends Village and this link section is fairway number 9. This is looking up north towards the entrance of the links. And this is the asphalt machine that's going to start asphalting the roads tomorrow morning. So tonight, the 3 items in I, J, and K are one of the same package. So in order to move forward and be able to sell legal lots, the city has a function, has 3 actions to take in order to allow us to do that. The first is a dedication deed and the plat, which means the plat is a legal document that turns the built lots into legal lots. And the dedication deed is that all the infrastructure, road, utilities that have been built in the subdivisions are turned over to the city. And the city, once they are dedicated to the city, takes over the maintenance of these utilities and also has access to, for repairs if necessary. The second item, link subdivision approval acceptance. The city engineer basically is supervising the construction, has been supervising the construction since we started a year ago. He reports to the city manager basically about the progress and completion. We have a list of items that he has to check. He will do utility testings in order to make sure that basically everything is all right, that the roads are usable, all the utilities are available at every single lot. So this action by the City Council basically approves the completion of the finished subdivision, phase 1. And the third one is public utility, water, wastewater, electric easements. These are basically also dedicated to the city, and because some of the utilities cross the golf course, we have established easements. Easements are basically the means by which the city or the utilities are allowed to enter somebody else's property and do repairs if necessary. So we have easements for water, wastewater, and electric that go basically across the golf course. all the utilities inside the subdivision are part of the approval acceptance of the completed subdivision. So in order to go forward, basically what we're asking you tonight is to approve it. All these 3 items, approve them. And the final acceptance is subject to final engineering and legal review. We have already submitted all the easements and dedication documents to the city attorney, and she will give the final okay. And we are turning in now, while we are completing the subdivision, all the necessary documentation to the city's engineer, who will basically, on behalf of the city, approve all construction plans. The whole thing will be accepted by him as a basically recommendation to the council. We did the same when we, a year and a half ago, approved the preliminary plat. The preliminary plat is basically to show how the home builder and the utility provider is basically building the subdivision. It's a legal document, nothing changed, everything was built according to the original preliminary plat, so the final plat reflects basically what has been built, and is basically more or less with minor details the same as was proposed and approved a year and a half ago. With that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Yes. I was going to ask you, could you explain the public utilities and the sewer lines on the section right here?
Yes, so the way the process is in developing a subdivision is basically council approves preliminary plat and construction plans, which we submitted a year and a half ago, which was approved in a council meeting, I think, in July of 2018. That allows us to start constructing the subdivision. The subdivision basically is all the horizontal development, meaning roads, wastewater lines, pipes, water lines, pipes, electric lines and pipes, and all the necessary utilities and constructions that are necessary to have a new road accessing all the new lots with all the utilities available at the site. So we have built on behalf of basically the electric co-op, Phillips, we have built their conduits. So what they are doing is basically hot wire the conduits. We have built for the subdivision all the sewer lines and all the water lines. They're in place, they have been tested, and basically once everything is tested, once everything is approved, then by law, because it's a public road, all the utilities in the ground mostly, and all the roads go over, basically are handed over by this dedication deed to the city. And then from then on, it's tax exempt because it's a public utility, public road, and the maintenance also switches over to the city. Until that time, we are basically responsible for maintaining it. We're building it. I mean, we don't have to maintain it, we're just building it right now.
Madam Mayor, I have a couple of questions. Yes. Can you update the public here on TIF, when it will expire, the tax increment fund?
The TERS. The TERS.
TIF.
No, it's a TERS. Tax increment reinvestment fund.
Correct.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Okay. Yeah, so there's 20 years ago, the original developer basically established a TERS, a reinvestment fund, which is a reimbursement fund for the developer, basically, based on all the property taxes, incremental property taxes that are created when we build the subdivision. So basically what it does is it's an incentive for the developer to develop a property. So he will be refunded by the tax payments created by these houses that are built on the property during a certain time for his expenses to build the infrastructure. And so the TERS was created in 2001 and will expire in 2031. And until that date, basically, the tax revenues that are created within River Bend will go into basically a fund and then be used to refund the developer for expenses that he had in connection with developing the subdivision, meaning the whole subdivision.
I have another question, the second one. With this new sewer plant, would all this be accomplished?
Which new sewer plant? The one you're building here?
Right.
Yeah, so, you know, in 2014, when we negotiated the developer agreement, so, you know, it's two sides that, you know, want to achieve a certain goal. So for us as a developer, was crucial at the time to have a confirmation from the city, and she had it to basically expressly, you know, show it in the contract, that the city can serve 904 lots to be built.
And can we? Absolutely, right?
I have no doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a good investment for all those that pushed for that new plant, right?
And it's, you know, we have 750 lots to go. 107 are built now, another 650 to go.
But
So
that sewer plant will be enough for all
for
your
everything,
projects.
yeah.
Thank
Plus
you.
other, yeah, I assume,
Absolutely.
plus other houses
Awesome.
in town.
That's what I wanted to hear. We're growing.
We're
doing
growing.
good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other questions or comments for Richard? Or
No.
if not, do I have a motion?
Also move.
Councilman?
Is that for all three of them?
No.
Is that
You
for
would
just
take all three at once, or do you want to do one individually?
If we can do, yeah, we better do it individually, if that's okay, Mayor and Council. I think that way we'll have better clarification for the record and for Ms. Vinnie's.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilman Ortiz. I have a second by Mrs. Cantu. Any citizens' comments on item I? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. We can move on to item J.
It will be the same, right?
Yes.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Ortiz, seconded by Mrs. Cantu.
Yes.
Consideration action to approve the completed subdivision and conveyance of the road to the city for the Apex Home League subdivision pending engineering and legal final review. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Moving on to item K, consideration action to accept Apex Home Link subdivision public utilities pending engineering and legal final review.
So move.
Councilman Jimenez, seconded by Mrs., did I hear Mrs. Cantu down there?
Yes.
Yes. Any citizens' comments?
The mayor, council member, as you all know, I requested for you all to please approve this project. And I want to thank Richard for trusting us in helping in developing this and approve all this planning so we can have the revenue and enjoyment of the growth of the city of Floresville. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. If I may add, if you would all, whenever the time is right, pass this table, put your signature at the right place, everybody, and 7 times 7 signatures. So some sporty activities tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to item L. Consideration action to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Floresville Economic Development Corporation for partnership on grant applications for projects, collaboration of staff regarding the Floresville Event Center and the land lease property shooting range for the Floresville Police Department on the Floresville Economic Development Industrial Park site. Mr. Reed, or
Hi, Mayor. Your name is our city manager, and we have, of course, bid lead for EDC as well as CHAS. And so we didn't have an opportunity to complete everything. I referenced to the memorandum of understanding. I think you're probably understanding we've been a little busy and taking care of some things. However, I need to explain from the city's perspective, from my perspective, as what we're trying to do with this agreement. And then you can give, and hopefully, if you agree, a direction to your attorney to prepare such an agreement. So what we're looking to do is that FEDC and the city of Floresville, and as well as the 4A and the 4B, which includes the event center, have been working collaboratively on other things. And later on in your agenda, we're going to be asking you to approve the resolution to allow EDC to give us $255,000 to go along with the $100,000 grant that we received from Sarah to do the parking lot at the event center. And so historically, when I look back, and by the way, just a little plug, the event center is going to be 10 years old soon. I think believe in June. It's going to be 10 years old. That the EDC actually helped pay for the turning lane to get into, which is required by TxDOT to get into the event center. So it's come full circle. And so what we're asking you all to do is to allow both staffs, because to be connected, to work collaboratively together. Would include also, Charlotte?
Yes.
Come on up. To include all of them to work into it. So this would actually put in writing what we need to do, to collaborate on grants, to collaborate on projects. EDC is putting their money where their mouth is with the event center, but we need to be able to have more of a collaborative effort with the 4A, the 4B, and the city. So we're asking you to put some things together. We've come up with the organizational chart we need to run by the attorney, but what we're asking you to do, if there's any points for us to prepare an agreement, that's what we're asking to do. I'll turn the microphone over to Mr. Van Reed.
So if you look in on the organizational chart,
They don't have
oh, we have nothing, okay. Well, I'll just explain it to you and then we'll go from there. So as we talked about the organizational chart, we figured we knew the one thing on top we wanted, council and mayor, was the community. So the community that helps run the council. And from the council, we were coming down to Henrietta, the city manager. And we all know historically with the 4A and the 4B board, y'all make those appointments to those boards. So from that organizational chart, it'll go from the city manager to both the 4A and the 4B. Well, that'll come directly from the city council. But then she'll have like kind of like a dotted line to it where she can work with those board of directors as a city manager to get things done. And then on one side, from the 4A, it stops. So under Henrietta, which Chaz reports directly to, you have himself and then his staff at the event center. And then on the other side, where you have the FEDC and the 4B, it'll come straight down to myself as the executive director with like dotted lines as part of the MOU to explain how we'll all work with the city manager and the city of Floresville on continuing to grow our city in a progressive way with that growth mindset that we talked about and the hashtag we always use with the FEDC. And as well, we'll have one to Ches to work with him as the event city manager on projects, and that's special projects as we go forward. So some of the things we just approved like last couple weeks ago at our board meetings to help with the title sponsor for the Freedom Fest, which we're working on redefining that and rebranding that for the community as we move forward. And then from there we have Charlotte, which is our assistant to the EDC and myself, and then she can work kind of with that memorandum of understanding. She'll work with the staff as we do events as well, along with Ches and myself. So really what this is I think Bill Gleason used it, synergy that he asked us to move forward a few months ago when I was going to the 4A meetings. So it shows that togetherness, how we want to work as a community as a whole, bringing the 4A, the city of Floresville, and the 4B together to work towards promoting our town and showing the great place it is.
And last, but certainly not least, as you know, the FEDC has an industrial park. However, this wonderful industrial park is not within the city limits of the city of Floresville. And Lieutenant Evans has been working very hard to try to negotiate and find a shooting range. And so this memorandum of understanding will allow us to do so and operate outside the city limits, but to be covered for insurance purposes. And I'll let him speak to the shooting range. Lieutenant Evans.
Council, once again, hello. We currently use the county range, which is an informal basic range run by the county. We have to ask permission to use it, and we're at their mercy if they need it first or they've got to do things. We have no control over it, and it doesn't suit our needs all of the time. We need a piece of land so that we can build a shooting range, and we can use it for things like training, of course, yearly mandatory firearms quals, firearms training, low leg training, and of course now canine training as it involves officers. So we're looking for property. We have been for some time. And of course, if we can do that without spending any city money, that would be great for the piece of property. So that's what we're looking for. We need it badly. We've got some unused, and I say we loosely, there's some unused land out of the industrial complex, and we would very much like to put our flag down in the middle of that piece of property and erect a berm and safely conduct training.
Any questions by the council?
So the city would have to pay for the insurance?
Well,
We currently have insurance as they're shooting right now. Okay, and this will allow us to say that we have an agreement. We have a local agreement with the county that allows them to shoot, but our insurance will be covered if we have an agreement to say that, yes, we allow them to be able to go and to shoot appropriately. So yes, our insurance currently covers it. We just have to add an addendum to the new location. EDC is going to be having their meeting on Monday the 10th. Monday the 10th. Hopefully, I can go back to them and let them know that you are amenable to this agreement, and then we can fine tune it out and hopefully have the details in the next meeting. But what we're looking for is approval to move forward.
Any other questions?
So who's gonna buy the property? The
EDC is going to maintain the ownership of the property. The memorandum of understanding will allow us to use the property.
So y'all are buying the property?
We already own it.
Oh, y'all own it?
We already own it.
Okay,
We have a
own it
piece of
already.
property way in the back. It's unused and can't be developed. It's a drill site. And so we thought, Evans and myself and the city manager, we thought that would be a good site for the city to utilize. So like I said, it's in the very beginning stages of it. We just went out there this a few weeks ago, this last week. And like I said, we'd like to have your blessing on it so we can move forward with my board.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move to approve this MOU.
Any other, what is it? I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any citizens' comments?
Yeah, with that firearm range being for private citizens.
Yes, and please state your names.
Sorry, my name is Frank Ramirez. I am a resident of Floresville, Texas. Mayor, I'd like to say that this addition of that he wants to buy this property, or the city has it already, but will that range be opened up for private citizens to be able to use that property for their own benefit, practicing their firearms?
Yeah, the answer would be no, not at any time for any reason.
Why are they excluding the citizens of Florida, the taxpayers?
My answer as a police officer is then we'd have to maintain it, hire staff. We'd get into money making versus losing money, liability regarding people that we have no idea who have any kind of training. So this is about law enforcement needs and the safety of the city rather than opening something public for citizens of Floresville, which, you know, if you're interested in that, you could bring it up at
We're
any
in a
time.
population of 6,000 people. I mean, what about the other, comparable to other cities? Do they have open ranges like that where they can go and train for their in use of their firearms?
If I could talk real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez.
What I'd like to do is, Mr. Ramirez, I have my office here, so I can give you my card and my number. And that's what we like. We're for citizens to come tell us what some of the needs are. And that's my job. I can go out to the community and maybe find a private investor that wants to come in and create a range that's safe to use for the community as well.
Well, I just think that, you know, you're bending over backwards too much with the Floresville Police Department. I think they have enough, they have the county that they can go use to do their firearms training. I mean, you just added another dog, which is probably going to run down the citizens of Floresville, the impoverished people. You know?
Time is up, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council.
Okay, any other citizens' comments pertaining to this item? I have a A motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, and we look forward to preparing an agreement that you all can approve finally, and we're working with your lovely attorney.
Okay, moving on to item M, consideration and action to approve Resolution 2020-003, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Floresville, Texas, authorizing expenditures for materials up to 75% of the total cost of the project, not to exceed $255,000, to be transferred from the Economic Development Funds to the City of Floresville to assist with the fund of paving the Event Center Sports Complex parking lot.
Yes, Council and Mayor. So on this, our board talked at our last board meeting, and the historical part of this is we brought it to council probably a little over a year ago, and it was tabled at that time. I don't think everything was ironed out with the funding as far as what we can do, but with the help of the Central River Authority and the hard work of our city manager, Henrietta Turner, we have gotten a grant. I think we're right at $100,000 to add on to this. So it wouldn't cost any additional funds to the taxpayers on what we can do. So I think from the historical background of what we know, the event center is, from my short time working here in the last 6 months, is everyone compliments it. They said it's the nicest facility around. They love the space. We were out there today talking to a gentleman that's going to come in and rent those fields for private use to run youth tournaments from like I think 5, 6 years old all the way up to 18U, where I think he was saying when he has a tournament, he can bring in about 70% occupancy in the hotel rooms. So I think the first tournament he's going to do in a few weeks, that's going to take up all 4 fields for 2 days. He's asking for like 50 to work with the hotels to fill up 50 rooms for that. So as you can see out there, one of the things that Event Center is 10 years old, and for the upkeep of it, to work towards that, we feel that this is something that the board of directors and myself feel this is something that we could partner with the City of Floresville to give the Event Center to help, not only just for the upgrades of it, but for the safety of it as well. Because when you go in there, you can't see any lines currently at this time. So if you want to get an example of what this parking lot will look like afterwards, look at the work that the county did across from the library and the old gym. You can see how nice and paved it is. The lines are very, very well defined. We can make it really accessible to our ADA and that population as well. So with the proper curbs and the proper stops to prevent people from just racing through the event center. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to continue the MOU that all approved and partner with the City of Floresville for this cause.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the resolution 2020-003.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor, but before I do, we've got a blank on the agenda item 2. Is that number supposed to be filled in for 2020-003?
It's supposed to be 255,000.
Yes, the link would be 2020-003.
And the total amount is 255,000.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, and for this project as well, one of the things that I really heard the concerns when we were partnering with the city to do the parking lots for the businesses downtown was not when we have street maintenance. So part of this is to go to bidding to have them complete the whole project without taking away our city staff as well.
Resolution 2020-003 reads, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Floresville, Texas, in support of developing and improving the parking lot of the Floresville Event Center and authorizing the city manager to undertake all necessary efforts, including but not limited to authorizing the city manager to accept $255,000 from the Floresville Economic Development Corporation to complete this project and providing an effective date. So I have a motion on the floor. Councilwoman Cantu, do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Martinez. Any citizens' comments?
Just a couple of words. Mayor, Council, Fred Gonzalez, Floresville. As you probably know, this is a project that has been in the pipeline for at least a couple of years. I think this expenditure is good for the city. If you've been over there, you know that what we have now is unacceptable. As a citizen, I highly recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? I have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, 5-0.
Thank you on behalf of the Floresville Economic Development Corporation and my board of directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, for all your work.
Moving on to item N, consideration action to approve budget amendments approving the expenditure of $20,000 donation for firearms equipment and training to come out of the firearms line item per the donor's request.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you. We received a generous donation. The donor made the donation specifically for the firearms line item, so that we may upgrade our weapons inventory.
Can you tell us a little bit about the donor?
I can. It's a relative of mine who just had the opportunity to do so. The donor doesn't want any recognition, just wants to help out the PD.
Okay, thank you. And Helen?
We just need consideration and action to approve the budget amendment for that.
Okay. Resolution 2020-004, a resolution authorizing the city of Floresville, Texas to apply for, no, that's not the right one. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself on that. That's the next one. Okay. Consideration action to approve budget amendment approving the expenditure of the $20,000 donation for firearms equipment and training per the donor's request.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Jimenez. Do I have a second? Ortiz, I'm sorry. I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Ortiz. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Jade. And any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item O, consideration action to approve budget amendment approving the expenditure not to exceed $60,000 for the purchase of 2 unmarked police vehicles for the Floresville Police Department state forfeiture funds.
Okay. So, through seizures, large majority of which, if not all, are related to narcotics enforcement, we have a state forfeiture fund, and we also have a seizure fund, and we have a federal forfeiture fund. The state seizure fund, the state forfeiture fund, I believe has a little over $80,000. The authority to spend that money, obviously through budget amendment line items, comes from you, but the choice where to spend it has to come from the chief of police. The chief of police requests that we use 71,000, whatever the number is, 560.
But I can't see.
That number, to purchase 2 unmarked vehicles. Currently we have 3 vehicles that are used by 5 officers. This creates a problem daily, and 2 of those vehicles, you should know, are 2008 models. They're over 12 years old. They both have over 125,000 miles. They were both seizures, which means they were used doing something illegal, and they were seized from somebody committing a crime. Both of those vehicles ended up in water and had to be refurbished. One of them had a new engine purchased. So they've been through a lot. So understand that 3 vehicles are being used by 5 officers. 2 of those vehicles are in not the best shape. So we need to purchase these 2 vehicles to at least supplement the officer's ability to move around and investigate, and hopefully replace at least one, if not both of those other vehicles, or use them until the wheels fall off, whichever we choose to do. But that's what the request is for.
Any questions by the council?
I have a comment, Madam Mayor. I've taken many rides with officers. I believe I'm the only one that has taken the most rides. And they do need vehicles. That is a very high priority. In case of a chase, that you know, there's no way that they're gonna be able to keep up with those, runaway cars, so, so I urge the council to support this item, and I appreciate it.
Before we make up, could you explain to the audience what state forfeiture funds
Of
are,
course.
please?
State forfeiture funds are monies that we seize as a result of criminal activity through the state process, which would be felonies. You know, within the state of Texas, we don't normally deal with misdemeanors and seizures. So if I stop somebody and they've got a bunch of narcotics in their vehicle and they're using their vehicle to transport narcotics, the state says I can seize that money, or I can seize that vehicle, sell it, and use the money for law enforcement purposes. If through investigation I stop somebody or run a search warrant on their house and they've got $100,000 in what we prove to be drug currency, the state law says that I can seize that money on behalf of the department and use that money for law enforcement purposes. 1/3 goes to the district attorney's office because that's our agreement, and that's a normal agreement with the district attorney's office. They've got to file the paperwork and follow up with moving the seizure forward. 2/3 goes to the seizing entity unless there's an agreement beforehand, or if we're working with another agency, then we may share some of that money. But that's where this money comes from.
Thank you. I just want everybody to understand where the money's coming from. Thank
Of course,
you very
yes,
much.
ma'am.
And with that, I move to approve.
I have a motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded, motion by Mrs. Cantu, seconded by Mr. Ortiz.
Mayor, excuse me, if we could actually, when we do the reading, because the reading states not to exceed 60,000, so we need to state the correct amount, please. And that would be $71,567.30.
So we consider to approve the budget amendment approving the expenditure not to exceed 71?
71,500.
Okay,
567.30.
Okay, for the purchase of 2 unmarked vehicles, police vehicles from the Floresville Police Department state forfeiture funds. I have a motion on the floor and a second. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hands.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Council, Madam Mayor, thank you very much.
Moving on to item Q, consideration and action to approve budget amendments, tax adjustments for 2019-2020 for funds in General Fund 301, Water Fund 221, wastewater fund 222.
Mayor, council members, I have 2 consideration and action items. One's a budget amendment and the other one's a budget adjustment. The budget amendment number 4 is for $14,500. And these are insurance proceeds that we got when the last K-9 passed. And they would like to utilize it to purchase K-9 unit equipment for PD.
Okay. Any questions? For our finance director? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
A motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Do I have by Mr. Ortiz? Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Consideration action to approve budget amendments and adjustments for 2019-2020. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is a budget adjustment. This is just a housekeeping issue. When I became the interim finance director, I found that there were some data entry errors, and I had to go back and tie it to the adopted budget. So those adjustments are just getting it back in line with the adopted budget. And this is just FYI.
But that's,
Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
how did you get that amount?
How did I get the amount? When I became interim, got the adopted budget that was submitted to Betty Soto for USDA, that was submitted from our city manager, Henrietta Turner, and I compared that to the Encode report and saw that there had been some adjustments made, so I had to go back and get it back to the adopted budget.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Can we table this item?
May I speak, Mayor? Okay. So it is a housekeeping issue, and as we are anticipating preparing for the auditors coming in March, what's happening is that the budget that you all adopted is not what's in the computer. Because I don't know, we've had 2 or 3 people upload the budget, so it doesn't match. And so what this is allowing to do is to match, and we need to, it's required for us to bring it to you all to say that we had to make these adjustments so that we can be in line as we get ready for the audit to come, and I believe it's March 9th that they're coming. And so, how it reads, and we need to do balance statements, because we're asking for up-to-date, actually we met with Betty Soto, I need to do one right away. We need to make these adjustments, otherwise every time she runs a report, she being Helen, they're not going to align, because these things are not in the computer as they should have been. Helen has gone over with a fine-tooth comb as to what you all adopted, and we had to require to send it to USDA. What we adopted, that's what these adjustments will be able to do. So when she says a housekeeping issue, we just have to inform you, as the auditors have said previously, to let you know that we had to make these staff adjustments. There's no additional money, no additional funding, just it has to align with the system.
Yes, and then after I made these adjustments, now I have to go back because there were some adjustments that have been approved by council. I need to go back and key those in, you know, and I'm just being transparent here. I want y'all to know what's going on. I wanted a good adopted budget, and henceforth, I have to do the budget amendments or adjustments that y'all approved. I need to add those back in, and the longer we wait, the longer it's gonna take to get a good financial report. I'm being transparent.
Then I'll go ahead and.
I have a question.
Okay?
Was all this money floating around?
Was the money floating around?
No.
Not sure.
No.
But everything's accounted for, right?
Yes.
Okay, with that,
Yes.
I move to approve resolution 2020-004, a resolution to authorize the city of Floresville to apply for the rural business development grant. Is that?
It's still up on Q.
I'm sorry, the CNA to approve budget amendment adjustments for 2019-2020 for funds in General Fund 301 and Water Fund 221 and Waterways Fund 22. Is that the appropriate wording?
No. What we need to do is approve budget, the amendment that she made, which is budget amendment number 4, and budget adjustments for fiscal year 2019-2020, general fund, those water funds, and of course any other funds that's there. Yes, ma'am.
Wastewater.
Just say all funds. It's really all funds.
Okay.
It's not just 221, it's all funds. I had to go through every fund and reconcile it to Encode, to the adopted budget, and make sure that those adjustments got made.
Yes, and for the record, Encode is our accounting services, our accounting program, and so if you don't have that right number in there, then it's not going to allow us to do the things that we can do. So we need to just make these adjustments to fit what actually the budget was there, because that's what that was in the system. When Helen started working with the system, that's what she kept occurring, was that if we had money in for street maintenance, you approved it in the budget, but it's not in the computer. So that, but we wanted to make sure that we told you that, so when the auditor comes in, didn't bring any budget adjustments to you? Yes, we did. And we told you why, but this is housekeeping. There's no additional money and no additional spending.
So basically, the motion would be to approve budget amendments for all funds.
Yes, ma'am.
For all funds.
Yes.
No, we're not enough.
So, consideration action to approve budget amendments, adjustments for 2019-2020 for all funds in general fund. All funds.
All funds.
All funds.
Yes.
Did I have a motion on the floor for that?
just keep in mind, one was a specific amendment for 14,500. The rest of them were adjustments for alpha.
Oh, I move to approve that one.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Cantu. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Jimenez. Any citizens' comments? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item R. Consideration action to approve resolution 2020-004, a resolution to authorize the city of Floresville to apply for the Rural Business Development Grant in the amount of $500,000.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council.